Hey, HTDA, and today we're playing some more Mindustry. Last time around I had quite a bit of trouble actually clearing this map of the enemy, but honestly, having to look at this facility all over again now, I actually don't think it was all too bad. I mean, this is a pretty hefty defense, and this entire base, even though it's tiny, produces all the tier 2 units, or even some of the tier 1 units, at a pretty reasonable rate, and it's pretty well defended. So all in all, I could have done a lot worse, I think. Anyway, go easy on me. It's time for a new level. And honestly, just looking at the map, we're doing a pretty good job conquering this planet, I think. The real question is where to go next. I am sort of inclined to go for this level over here. It has yet another enemy base, but I think just to change things up again, I am going to go for the Stained Mountains. That's an interesting name for a level. I've gotten into the habit of flipping back to the Windswept Islands map because I'm producing every single resource I currently have available on this map, and I also am producing those at a very reasonable rate. And look at that, people. I know a lot of you have been telling me in the comments that I can extend my storage space for my core by just building some containers around it, and look, I did it. I should probably be doing this in the other levels as well, but as you can see, I'm now storing up a lot of resources here, which makes this an ideal launching platform for all my conquests. Anyway, to the mountains that are stained, and we are landing. We have our nice little starting facility that should automatically start working, and yep, that works just fine. Let's see what we have to work with. There are some derelicts over here. The surge smelter, nice, because I definitely want to get some surge alloy going. I haven't been able to produce that so far. We have some incinerators. Why would you build an incinerator over here? I actually have no idea, but we do have some slag over there, probably for the surge alloy. There is an interesting pipeline over here with a mass driver. Ooh, look, mass drivers. I really want those as well. And this map is huge. Okay, we actually have a fair amount of water going through the middle. I really like that as well. And then the enemy is going to come from over there. So if we can just pretty much just block this area off, we should be able to keep them contained. So the ground units might go either like this, but probably they will just go straight down like that. But the air units might go any direction. So we're just going to have to block off this entire corridor. So this time around, I definitely want to start building my initial defenses first, because the last couple of times I started doing other stuff first. That's really kind of bit me in the behind. Now, I can't really build anything over here in this bottleneck because the spawning zone extends to that area. So yeah, I am just going to kind of sit back and build some defenses here, I guess. And in this area, there isn't a lot of room, but then again, that does provide a natural bottleneck for the enemy to have to come through as well. So I think we should be just fine if we just fill this entire corridor with turrets, basically. First things first, I need to get some power up and running, and that is why I am building this entire pipeline of power all the way to the north, because this is where I want to set up my power plant. Now, the reason for that is that I have a lot of empty space over here that I'm probably not going to be using, so I figured I might as well just fill it with the power production. Well, maybe not entirely fill it, but at least use it for that, so I can utilize this more cramped space for the actual production of units, items, etc. And even if that sounds wasteful, it's really not, because I need to get that power here anyway, because I want some menders and things like that on the front line as well. And point in case, we are setting up some pyrite production. It seems that pyrite is used in pretty much, well, not all of the defensive towers, but in a lot of them, which means that just by setting up a relatively small amount, I mean, honestly, this might be overkill still, but by setting up some pyrite production, I can fuel a massive amount of towers, thereby completely trivializing my defense. At least that's my hope. I do have just 2 minutes to do that, so this is actually why I'm setting up a little bit more than I think I need, mostly because my towers won't be actually shooting at stuff if they don't have ammo. So yeah, there's that. And this should hopefully cover the defensive line as much as possible. So I set up a couple of salvos, a couple of ripples, and these homing type of turrets, the swarmers, that's what they're called, as well as a couple of menders to make sure I have pretty much my entire front line covered with some repair. I'm also trying to split the production of the pyrite between between half of the turrets, roughly. It's not an exact science, but I think we should be doing just fine, assuming I can get everything up and running in the next 2 minutes or so. And thanks to the help of my little army of polys, that is no problem whatsoever. And all of these salvos and ripples and so on have ammunition. We have everything up and running. We have the power. Double checking. No, we don't have enough power to actually keep all of this running. But just by adding in a couple of these, I think we should be okay. Just double checking if everything was connected. No, it was not. Well, all I need to do is just build a little bit more of this. Probably something like that, and then we have all the power we need. With that surplus of power, that allows me to add in a couple of these Lancer towers as well, just because I can. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. I really like how these things speed everything up, and let's see what the first wave is going to look like. Just a single unit. Well, I think we can be safe to say that this is not going to be a problem whatsoever. I don't think it's even going to get a shot off. Nope, there we go. So interesting. I actually had to reload my game, and it turns out that the game tells you how many waves you're going to survive with the defense if you've built up. Now, as far as I understand, this isn't really exact. I mean, it will lose the zone once it gets beyond those 20 waves, but it doesn't really like factor in all the units you might be able to produce and repairs you might be able to do if you're actually in the level itself. But that does prove to me that some of the defensive I just built are going to be way sufficient for the upcoming couple of waves. So given the amount of real estate we have on this map, I figured this might be a good map to turn into another one of my kind of like resource stations that I can use to ship things off to other zones later on. At least that's how I understand this is going to work with launchers once we actually unlock them. I'm kind of curious to see when that will be. There is a challenge here though that I'm not sure how much resource we can actually fit through these gaps, but we'll just have to make it work. I'm also really enjoying this layout I have going for the pirate hide. I think it's very clean, it's very easy to tile, it's very easy to use, and it's definitely something that speeds up my early gameplay if I need basic resources. So I'm kind of thinking maybe we should do something similar for the other resources as well. Something like this for the graphite maybe. It has simple water and coal coming in, and of course this is one of the more simple types of fabrications, but as you can see I now have almost 2 full belts of graphite coming in with just minimal effort. And having graphite as a standalone type of blueprint, I can do the same for silicon now, just iterating a little bit on what I've already designed before, and I'm really liking this particular layout. I can easily just do copy, paste, and there we go. I now double up on my silicon production without having to do any belt work whatsoever other than just connecting, of course, these 2 belts. I like having these sorters here just to indicate what goes on which belt, just to make my life easier when laying these things out. Okay, so small but important update to the design I initially made is that I now moved up the pyrite mixer next to the belt over here, so there's no things that can get stuck on the little side belt I had going before. Other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. It's still tileable, so it's working pretty much like intended. You can see the glorious line of resources going towards my main base. I was running out on titanium actually, so hence this little temporary belt over here that I'm going to be using to restock on that, and then we're going to have to focus on maybe setting up some slag production. Actually, we have quite a lot of slag over here as well as in several other places on this map, and I want to utilize that to get all those kind of random basic items that I need to build all the other stuff. On another note, there was some sneaky little air units that came through. I'm not entirely sure where they came from, honestly. Apparently they managed to get past these defenses, so they must have spawned like in the top corner or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, this little sneaky bugger actually managed to get all the way through to my base over here. So I'm gonna have to set up some anti-air defenses across the map as well. Oh, and speaking of which, I was wondering why I was still getting the core under attack message while I didn't see any enemies left. Apparently the enemies got taken out, but the fire is still going rampant, and as you can see, it actually took out pretty much the entire storage units I had set up over here. I am going to have to build some more anti-air and make sure that this can't happen. Make sure I have some repair units and maybe a couple of waves, because all of this napalm is kind of getting to me at this point. Would you look at that? This entire layout of waves actually has issues fighting all of this fire over here. I guess napalm is pretty good if you want to defeat your enemies. Well, okay, these anti-air turrets should be sufficient to stave off the enemy forces, and on top of that I just built some emergency lead-based enemy defense just as a final line of defense, I guess. Speaking of which, I should probably add in a couple of menders over here so they can repair the base just in case we need it. Now, I have a pretty steady flow of all the base materials flowing in now, but of course this is not going to be enough. I want to expand on this. Okay, the next thing goes right on the overkill pile, but still, this little layout over here is going to turn a full belt of scrap into a full belt of more useful types of materials, copper, lead, and graphite to be exact, as well as titanium actually. So it's 4 different resources all in one, and in case we have any leftover scrap, that will be turned into the main base as well. So yeah, I am going to have to set this up with some miners, some water, and so on. And then we should have all the base materials covered for sure. Alright, there we go. That is all of that covered. Now, I also want to have a healthy amount of plastinium production, because honestly, I don't really have that in large quantities anywhere else. The enemy waves are getting slightly bigger, but it seems that we have no real issues defending against them still. I do need a little bit more anti-air defense in this region, apparently, because every now and then they fly off, as you could just see, towards my power supply, and that's definitely a bad news sign if they would get through. Luckily, I already have all the pyrite in the world that I need to fuel some more of these, so yeah, I can just keep stacking up however many of those I need, and it looks maybe not the most impressive, but it's definitely going to do the job. Meanwhile, I just got the message for the first time ever since the initial second attack I got while I was doing another level that one of my regions is under attack. I actually think this is the same region, isn't it? Yeah, it's the the one with all the basic defense as well. This is interesting because I don't actually have a lot of the more complicated tech that I have in all the other zones to defend this. Let's see. Well, at the very least I can start making some tier 1 flying units that I couldn't actually produce when I first started this level. And then let's take a look at these defenses. These are all super basic duos, arcs, and things like that. So yeah, we can definitely do better. Also seems like I never set up any graphite production over here. And now I can't use my new templates because I don't actually have titanium on this map, nor any way to get it here. Do I have slag on this map actually? Not slag, the what do I call it? Scrap. I don't believe I have any scrap on this map either, so I can't make titanium. But anyway, this should at least get some basics inflowing. Why is this not working? Because I need to use an underflow gate to make sure it actually gets in. There we go. And we have a very, very slow production of graphite coming in as well. And then using some of the existing lead and coal production along with some sand, I can start making pyrite, which is again going to fuel a lot of towers. Alright, so something like this should work. We have some pyrite coming in, I'm working on my hills, and in the meanwhile I do have to keep an eye on my other map, because otherwise of course we're going to be destroyed here. But it says here survives 18 plus out of 18 waves, so actually the level can just win itself, I guess? Is that how that works? Probably. But let me focus on actually getting the defenses up and running here. Alright, as long as I stop sabotaging myself by putting buildings next to belts that they shouldn't be next to, we can guarantee ourselves a pretty steady flow of resources. And by the looks of it, yeah, my defensive line seems to have pretty much been established now. So I think I can safely leave this level alone now, and it should take care of itself. Okay, so this now says it survives 13 out of 13 waves, so that should be fine, and we are once again back in the level we started out with. Now, what was I working on? Plastinium and metaglass are actually the 2 resources I still need. Alright, so this is a pretty healthy amount of metaglass production. Not sure what I'm going to use it for, but it's actually needed to make the plastinium facilities. And as you can see, I have a pretty steady flow of plastinium incoming, along with some surplus titanium that is needed to make plastinium. So yeah, I think this covers all the basics. Is there anything I've forgotten at this point? I don't believe so. I mean, we definitely want thorium at some point, but there's no way for me to collect this. I'm actually not sure where I got the thorium. I think it was from deconstructing some of the buildings that were already on the map. I've also reinforced the front line just a little bit, including plastinium walls, a lot of lancers to take care of any ground units, a lot of salvos to take care of any air units, a lot of ripples to take care of any mass units, a lot of salvos just to make sure that there's no air units slipping through here. Same goes over here on this side. I have the other secondary batteries of salvos down here, just in case anything decides to fly down. Yeah, I think this covers most of it. The only thing I haven't actually done on this level yet is, you know, build actual units. Okay, so let's see how the defense of this particular zone goes. I think it should be pretty well. Yeah, the air units stand no chance whatsoever, and the ground units, well, kind of the same, honestly. I mean, they're not gonna get through these plastinium walls anytime soon, not with the Ment projector right there. Let's just build another one just to be safe, and all of my polys also trying to repair that while they're being attacked. So let's work on some actual units. Now, considering I don't really have enough space to move my ground units around, I figured I might as well just stick to the flying units, and there's 4 types of them, so I am going to mass produce them. Being a little bit lazy here because I'm just drawing them from my core, I actually think this is going to be something I am going to do moving forward, ideally with a little bit more building space than I have here, but kind of like building my factory in such a way that I get as many resources in as I can, and then have 1 or 2 supply lines going out from my foundation to reutilize those resources to actually build my units. Now, as you can see, the enemy is getting torn apart, although I do have to say some of those higher level flying units might actually be able to come through. I mean, I am producing a fair amount of resources here. Do I need this belt? I don't think so. I'm just gonna have this go all through, whoa, not like that, all through my turrets, just to make sure I get as much air defense as I can. Might as well use this overflow of lead to add in some more air defense, because, you know, why not? Okay, how are we doing on Fungal Pass? It's at 5% damaged, and yeah, they actually took out a little scrap wall over here. And that is, of course, because I have no polys, any flying units to make sure that that doesn't happen. That's actually interesting. I can build some flying units here if I really want to. It's kind of like a mess, but yeah, I am building some flares, but I could definitely build some monos and upgraded polys here as well, because I do have all the resources I need for that. Alright, so this is going to very slowly take care of the production of flares and upgraded, I think it was horizons, right? And then I can utilize some more of that silicon along with the graphite that I'm producing for monos and polys. Okay, all of that is set up here as well. It's going to take a minute considering my terribly slow production, honestly. I do have a little bit of overflow of coal over here that I could utilize for some additional production. Yeah, maybe I should go for that. Although I do definitely need to make sure that I utilize it for the pyrite production first, because otherwise I won't be able to defend myself. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. This is going to go there, and this is going to go there, and I do not want any coal on this belt. There we go. Something like this, maybe? Yep, that should work. And then we can just have this is, oh man, this is so super duper ugly, but yeah, it is going to do the job. And ta-da, now we have some additional graphite production. It's probably going to empty this belt out. I think it's slowly creeping up to here. And we're definitely going to have to solve this in a different way. But as you can see, I can now easily take out these waves. So I'm just going to trigger a couple more so we can be done with this. Okay, I lied. I went into complete why not mode and I decided to add a lot more turrets to all of this. Why? Well, again, because I can. And in addition to that, I actually upgraded my core as well. So now I have an upgraded capacity for units, so I can make 16 of everything. Again, not really because I need it, but hey, it's kind of fun to push this zone to the max. And I think I can safely say that this zone should be safe for the foreseeable future now. With all of that done, let's hop back to the zone I was actually trying to capture and see how we're doing with the last couple of waves. These units are getting more and more in numbers. The air units are definitely going to punch through a little bit, but yeah, they're not gonna get all the way through. Oh, I actually forgot that I was trying to build some additional power supply over here. It's interesting that the enemy is trying to push down to this area. I think it's mostly because I'm producing all my power here. Maybe it's that. It's interesting. At least it's a change in mechanics. I could just fill this up entirely with anti-air turrets though. Which is of course exactly what I'm going to do because I was in why not mode anyway. So these cyclones should be ripping right through the enemy air, the attack. And I have that plastinium anyway, so I might as well use it. Now, is this going to include any air units? These are Guardians. It looks like it's not going to be a very large wave. Look at that. They just bleeped out of existence, and there we go. We have another zone conquered, new content unlocked, so that bodes very well for the next couple of episodes, and hopefully that will include some new things like Surge Alloy that the game was hinting at, but we're going to find that out next time. If you're still here, you're awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.